What's happening, guys? Hope you are all doing well on this wonderful. Let me just make sure my audio is actually working. I think audio is all good. Happy Friday, guys. I hope you're all having a wonderful Friday evening. It's the end of the week, so I'm glad for that. But on the downside, that means Manchester United are just going to be playing this weekend. So that's another downside. But big up to everyone in the chat. As always, man, you lot know what it is. Friday Night Lights. It's only right. I ain't actually done one in about, I think, a month or maybe about 3 weeks. I ain't done one. So I do apologize because it's meant to be a weekly stream. And oh my days, do we have a lot to talk about, I think, today, given the fact that Erik Ten Hag did his press conference. A lot of news coming out yesterday. And just this whole Erik Ten Hag situation, which you guys already know my stance on it. Obviously, we're going to also preview the Fulham game. I don't want any negativity, guys. Just realism, please, please, please. Realism when it comes to previewing the Fulham game tomorrow. I think Fulham haven't actually beaten Manchester United in a long time. I didn't want to mention it. So don't come for me. But Fulham haven't beaten Manchester United in a long time. And as I've said quite a few times, Erik Ten Hag really needs to turn this around. Big up to everyone in the chat. If you're new here, make sure you hit the like button. You guys know what it is. Of course, we have content coming across the weekend as well. After the Fulham game, I'll be doing my 5 things we learned after game week. What is it? 12, 11, I think it is. And guys, I actually did something risky. I did something risky in FPL this week. It could pay off. It might not pay off. I'll only mention it if it pays off. But if it doesn't pay off, then I'm just never going to talk about it. But big up to everyone in the chat as always. And as you lot can see in the title, I'm going to start with, I think the most interesting thing for me, especially given the Manchester derby last week, Raphael Varane ain't been playing, and TalkSport. Now, I don't know how accurate you guys think TalkSport is, but TalkSport reported yesterday that Raphael Varane was actually not ill and he was annoyed that he was dropped. Other outlets were also reporting that a lot of players are feeling bad for players that are being mistreated. I'm going to say being mistreated by Erik Ten Hag. We could talk about the Jadon Sancho situation, also the way that David De Gea was pushed out, including the way that Harry Maguire, they were trying to force him out of the club as well this summer. It really seems like a lot of the news that's coming out. And you know what, guys? I don't like speculation and I don't like dressing room leaks, and because that's essentially what it is. That's what it is right now. It's information coming out of the dressing room to kind of, or it could be coming out of the dressing room, actually. Let me not blame the players, but it could be coming out of the dressing room. It can come out of, staff, etc. But it's coming out of Manchester United's inner circle, and it's basically trying to take off any sort of heat off the back of, all these losses that Manchester United have been going through. We've lost more games than we've won this season. Erik Ten Hag still has the highest win percentage post Sir Alex Ferguson managers. However, there is a reoccurring theme that we're seeing right now in terms of what happened with Jose Mourinho, what happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Louis van Gaal, no, not so much. But also we're seeing it now under Erik Ten Hag, which essentially is players having no interest in playing for the manager. At what point do we call a spade a spade? Obviously, Erik Ten Hag will get a lot of the criticism because he is the manager. If you lot saw his press conference today, and I'm going to mention some stuff from his press conference, because to me, it looks like he's kind of starting to get a bit irritated with the media, and he's starting to get a bit irritated just by the way, like, his personality and his character when he addresses questions in the press conference. His demeanor has pretty much changed completely if you guys saw the press conference. But there was one particular thing that he brought up, which is interesting because I have this debate all the time, and it's always about this Ajax philosophy style football. Now, he says, and I agree with him, he said that he can't play the Ajax way because he does not have the players that he did at Ajax. I think he shouldn't play the Ajax way because the Ajax way is the Ajax way. It wasn't the Erik Ten Hag way, if that makes sense. Actually, that's a lie. That's actually a lie, because once he left, that style of football kind of disappeared. So technically, that style of football they were playing at the time was the Erik Ten Hag style of football. And you don't need the players that you had there to implement it, but I'm sure there's 100 of players that either you can A, bring in, or B, players that you can bring in and nurture into that style of, you know, your philosophy and your idea. Clearly, you're not able to do that with the current crop of players that you have now. I saw a big up to everyone in the chat. Sorry, big up to Koala. Shout out to Troy, says big up everyone. Big up CJK, says big up. Shout out to Jason, says big up Mina, big up Jason. Shout out to Manlatata. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Says Erik Ten Hag out, minute in. If only life was that simple, guys. But I saw today, guys, I was doing some research prior to the stream, and it made me think. I was thinking about, you know, why the fact that a lot of players that have, you know, gone through multiple managers at Manchester United, and we're still having this same issue of, you know, players not playing for the manager, you know, they're not fighting for the badge and all of that kind of stuff. I was looking at some stuff, yeah. A lot of players that have got contract extensions in the last 2 years, I think, should not have had contract extensions. And I'm going to start with the first one. And this is not in me in any form or shape kind of picking at him, but he just happens to be one that's gotten the most recent contract after Marcus Rashford, which is Diogo Dalot. Diogo Dalot is a perfect example. I felt that he wasn't a good enough fullback when I saw him getting cooked by Arnott Danjuma against Villarreal a couple seasons back in the Champions League. I think that's when we all knew that against any sort of winger that has any sort of technical ability or anything, he is not a good defender, number one. Number two, however, they sent him out on loan. And this is where I feel like Man United's shortcomings happen quite often, is that they sent him out on loan. He had a decent loan spell, came back, played his socks off, and gave him a contract to 2028. Do you know how, I won't say blasphemous, but do you know how outrageous that is? That off the back of one good season, he got a 5-year contract extension. I don't actually, let me not say 5-year, because that's actually a bit deceptive, because his contract, I think, was expiring in 2026. So he just got 2 years on top of that. But he got a contract extension to 2028, despite the fact that he had still not solidified his role as a starting right back. And the reason why I'm mentioning this, because I feel like we should go through a lot of the issues that Manchester United have before we kind of start saying Erik Ten Hag out, basically. I know a lot of people, and you know what? I say it all the time to you guys on my stream. If you lot are Ten Hag out, you're more than welcome to be that. And I want to hear everyone's thoughts. That's just not the position that I am in. But I do have questions about him and his style of football and everything. One thing I will say is that if we do let him go, or if he does walk, I think if he doesn't get results by, like, I'm going to be nice and say like December, because bear in mind, we're playing Liverpool in like December. Anytime we play against Liverpool, it seems like a manager gets sacked. But if he does not manage to turn something around, I think he might be more likely to walk than he is to get sacked. I don't think United will sack him because A, it will save them money. They have to pay him out about 15 million. And then on top of that, if they want to go and get another manager, they probably have to buy that manager out and then offer that manager a contract. They were still paying off David Moyes' contract a couple of years ago. So that says a lot. But I think A, he's more likely to walk. But before I get to that, let me go back to my topic about contracts, because I feel like a lot of players that make up this kind of core that Erik Ten Hag has to deal with, albeit a lot of the players are also people that he's brought in. So that's why people have questions about his talent ID, even though I know we hate that term. I know everyone hates that term, but talent ID questions are asked about it. Look at this list. Diogo Dalot is on his. These are people that got contract extensions, by the way. So Diogo Dalot, coming up to his starting, this is his 6th season at the club. Victor Lindelof is in his 7th season, veteran. McTominay, 8th season. Marcus Rashford, 9th season. Martial, 9th season. Luke Shaw, 10th season. Now, these are players that make up essentially the core squad. Outside of players that have been signed over the last year or two, these are players that have been part of the core squad and have one thing in common. Is either A, they've managed to outlast 3 managers, 4 some of them have outlasted 4 managers, and 5, and number 2, sorry, I don't know where I got 5 from, and number 2, some of these have got ludicrous contract extensions. Diogo Dalot is one of them. Marcus Rashford is one of them. But Marcus Rashford is one of them situations where I think if he did not get his contract extension, he would have went on a free. So in that instance, I kind of understand why Manchester United did offer him, the contract they've offered him, tie him down for, a long-term contract, invest in the Rashford stocks, because that's what they've done off the back of a great season for him. But I feel like what Erik ten Hag is dealing with is a lot bigger than these results not kind of reflecting on the pitch. Obviously, that's always going to be the headline grabber. United lose 3-0 to Newcastle, 3-0 to City, lose this much, that much, blah, 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 lose to Arsenal, lose to rivals, etc. That's always going to be the headline stuff or information. But I do think that a lot of things behind closed doors is also impacting this, because there's reports coming out that, players are not happy with fitness. Players are complaining that it's too intense. Under Oli, they were complaining that it was too laid back, and now they're complaining that it's too intense. They were complaining about pre-season and the fact that they didn't have enough time to relax during pre-season. Relax for what? What exactly are you? Okay, United had a pre-season tour across America, and they had one, I think, a game in Norway, a game in, what was it, in Manchester, and somewhere in England, in the UK, sorry. But the main tour was in America. One game was played by the youth team. The senior team, obviously, traveling across America, I can imagine, is exhausting. They got 6-7 hour flights to get from East Coast to West Coast. So I get that. But it's pre-season. How are you annoyed that you went to Vegas and you weren't allowed to go to a casino? Is that what you're annoyed about? Is that the standard of football that we're at right now, that this is what people players want to complain about? Big up to Ed Barrett, says one of the right backs will be sold. They are both good bench options. Dalot's contract extension could be about keeping value, maybe, perhaps, hopefully. I don't know about keeping value, because I don't. If we're gonna sign a right back, I'll be honest, guys. We let Ethan Laird go, less than $1 million. Understandable. He's a player that couldn't break into the first team, and when he did get first team opportunities, he grabbed them in the form of championship football. I understand that completely. However, there's no reason why we should be having two fullbacks in the form of Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Diogo Dalot, and then we're going out to buy an actual starting right back. I'd rather just keep one or the other, and then trying to offload Dalot at a later date, if necessary, might seem difficult because of his wages, because of his contract, etc. Aaron Wan-Bissaka obviously still in talks for another contract extension, so that's another question as well that should be asked, is the fact that, are we going to offer 2 contract extensions to 2 right backs that are going to be on the bench? Because you're telling me, and sorry, I'm not talking to Ed Barrett, but articles have been telling us and reporters have been telling us that next summer Manchester United are in the market for a centre-back, for a right-back, for a winger. January, potentially another striker. So are you telling me we're giving 2 contract extensions to 2 players that are going to basically be rotation players? That's what I want to know. But isn't the whole point of nurturing academy players to be rotation players before they become experienced first team players? Am I missing something? Is Manchester United not producing enough quality in the academy where we don't need to be giving out 2 big contracts to 2 fullbacks to sit on the bench, and we could just have one of them and then an academy player as the third option? That's just me thinking out loud. Big up to Dead and God, says to play the Ajax and Erik ten Hag style, you need technical ability, intelligence, and discipline. Most of our players lack in at least 2 of these areas. This is a good point, because in his press conference today, obviously everyone's just Erik ten Hag. Everyone's talking about the Ajax way, and he said that he can't play the Ajax style because he does not have the players that he had at Ajax. But if you guys look at the players that he had at Ajax at that time, I'm not saying right now the players that they've become. So I'm not talking about De Ligt, the player that he is right now. I'm not talking about De Jong, the player that he is right now. I'm not talking about Van der Beek, the player that he is right now. But at that time, I think it was 2019, when they made that run in the semi-finals in the Champions League and they wowed everyone. Yeah, that team, guys, are you telling me on paper, just based on paper, that like for like, those players were better than the players that we have now, for example? Because they were young. Like the main thing for me in that Ajax team was a lot of them were Ajax products. They were academy products, and this is why I go back to the importance of nurturing and developing academy players, because that's what some of them were. They understood the Ajax way of playing football because they came through the academy, this whole Johan Cruyff style. It was kind of embedded into them. And you know what? I'll give you guys a good example. Chelsea's academy, Cobham is said to be some. I think, I don't know at the moment, but a couple years ago, it was the best academy in England. It probably is still the best academy in English football right now. And when I spoke to a few players that have come through the Cobham Academy, they said that when they came at the age of 10, 11, 12, it was kind of drilled into their heads that they're there to win, and they're there to work hard. And there's a certain style. There's not a style, but there's a certain expectation of you as characteristic wise, personality wise, whether it's on the pitch, off the pitch. There's expectations. Yeah. So when that's kind of set out for you from day dot in academy, it's kind of drilled into you. Yeah. Military settings. When you come out onto the pitch, you know what's expected of you. So if you compare, and this is, please answer my question if you guys would like to, just compare the team that Ajax had in comparison to the team that we have now. You look at that and you think, okay, well, Haller was doing good at the time. Tadic, they had Tadic, obviously De Jong, they had Ziyech, etc. Ziyech, yeah, definitely better than that. 100%. But if you were to do a like for like comparison, I think Ten Hag should feel like he has the players to play in that way. Big up to Steffi in the chat, says, is the lagging back or just me? You know what? I've set up on 2 screens today just to monitor the lagging, and I don't have a lag. So hopefully, and I'm also just monitoring it on my phone. That's how much I love the channel, guys, is that I'm monitoring on my phone to make sure there's no lag. So there's no lag for me. I'm sorry if there is a lag for you, but I was speaking to someone at YouTube and they said it was a problem with like when you're watching it on phones. Sometimes live streams lately they've been having issues. But back to Erik Ten Hag's comments in the presser today, and the fact that Dead and Gone here is saying that a lot of players lack 2 of these stuff: technical ability, intelligence, discipline. Can you guys tell me one player right now in United that has all 3 of this? All 3 of this, because I'm not gonna lie, I was gonna say Lisandro Martinez, but there's been some things that he's done in his last couple appearances before he got injured that made me look at him a bit sideways regarding discipline. But if you look at please, if you guys can tell me, just name me one player that has all 3 of these, because if a lot of our players are lacking in this, what has Ten Hag done in terms of signing these players? Because I could tell you which players lack what. I can tell you Marcus Rashford lacks the intelligence sometimes. His decision making is a bit poor. Casemiro lacks discipline sometimes. He also lacks intelligence sometimes in terms of decision making. He doesn't make the best decisions. I think intelligence and discipline sometimes goes hand in hand. Lil Yo-Yo says Maino. Did you guys see Manchester City are reportedly monitoring Kobbie Mainoo's situation? I'm going to say Kobbie Mainoo's situation with Manchester United. I didn't know. This is news to me that they actually wanted to sign him before he signed with the United Academy as a kid. And then they've kept tabs on him over the years across his development. And now they're still keeping tabs on him. However, he's signed a contract, I think, to 2027. So he won't be going anywhere anytime soon. Guys, you lot already know. You lot already know my stance on Kobbie Mainoo and who he reminds me of. I'm not going to say it because you lot are going to get onto me. But you lot already know who I think. I think Kuala has to be trolling. Mainoo has to go. Listen, you lot know, I can't wait for Kobbie Mainoo to get an actual proper number. I don't want these academy numbers. I'm waiting to get a Kobbie Mainoo shirt. So when he gets a proper number, and I don't know what number would look good on him. What number would look? Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Whatever happened to the fact that we have a young raw number 9? We are just too spoiled. Let's talk about that because, I saw a stat from Sky Sports that had basically a list of all the goals scored by forwards for clubs, and Manchester United were rock bottom. Manchester United's forwards in the Premier League have scored 1 goal combined. That is Rashford, Martial, Højlund, Anthony, Sancho. Does Bruno count? Nah, Bruno don't count in that. Even then, I don't think it'll make a difference. But combined, Manchester United forwards have scored 1 goal. We spent 72 million on a player that we can't even get service to. We cannot even find him. We can't. They can't even work together to understand each other. I really wonder what they work on in the training ground, because you're telling me that we spent how long chasing a striker, talking about how we needed a striker, how we were 1 striker away from competing for a title, people were saying. All of that for our forward line to have a combined number of 1 goal. 1 goal. Do you know how outrageous that is? I think that is so outrageous. But you know what? Even as a team, I don't know if you guys realize, if this is just maybe my opinion only, I feel like we aren't really, I don't think we're really creating anything clear cut. I don't think we're creating anything clear cut in terms of chances, in terms of opportunities. If you guys think of all the goals that we scored, they've been like out of nowhere. It's not from good play, it's not from a good link up or anything. It's just out of nowhere. So the fact that, and I'm not gonna lie, I see Rasmus Højlund doing it sometimes. I see it often, especially when he's playing, making these runs through the lines, making these runs behind the centre backs, and no one's finding him. And then he comes off, and suddenly we just start crossing the ball in non-stop. I don't know what be going on. Dalot is a good player when he's playing for a manager, and when he has a proper right winger, i.e. looks good with Palestri, Sancho, and Otavio Bernardo Silva for Portugal. It just seems like we're making excuses for him. Big up to Kadeem, says, if we win tomorrow, we are 2 points behind you guys. I'm just kidding. Guys, Kadeem is an Everton fan, and that says a lot now that Everton fans control us. You know how crazy that is. I was Erik Ten Hag out because of Sancho. He's pinning his hopes on Sancho's best friend. Is he mad? Remember, Rashford scored before Sancho got dropped. Let's talk about Sancho because some reports have been suggesting, and you know me, guys, I don't like gossip. And then I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to give you lot, and then we're going to talk about news gossip. But I don't really like to go off of, hearsay from the media, because the media are going to do what the media does, get clicks. But reportedly, this Sancho situation, and you know what? Now that I've seen all the problems that United have regarding, Erik Ten Hag and, issues on the pitch, players, opinions coming out regarding, dressing room, all of that kind of stuff. Guys, I just wish Sancho and Ten Hag just squashed this. That would just be one problem off Ten Hag's list. Yeah, please let bygones be bygones. And I'm not gonna lie, I said this a long time ago. I remember when the situation started. Do you know how nuts this is? We're in November. This started in September. Do you know how funny that is? That it started September international break. We've had how many international breaks since? But I said that I felt that, Ten Hag was being a bit harsh, and if it continued, players might start turning on the manager. And I don't think players are turning on the manager per se, but I do think that some players maybe, and it's been reported again, gossip, news gossip, all of that kind of stuff. It's been reported that this bust up between Sancho and Erik Ten Hag is making players look at the manager a bit sideways, over a little statement, he removed it, all of that kind of stuff. Just move past it, but he's staying firm on it. And you know what? I've seen, he gets banished from the first team dressing room, banished from the first team lunchroom, all of that kind of stuff. He has to eat by himself. He has to get changed in like some little corner somewhere in Carrington. He can't even get changed in the under 18s changing room. He can't go to games. He can't travel with the team. He can't come to Old Trafford and watch, for example. I see him more time under 18, under 16, under 21 games than I have anywhere else. Does anyone feel like it's just gone too far now? Because you look at all the problems building up for Erik ten Hag. And I actually saw a comment, I think it was yesterday, that he made regarding Anthony. And I can't believe Anthony is the hill that he wants to die on. You know, he will jump in front of a grenade for Anthony. He will actually jump in front of a grenade for, and out of all the players on your team, is Anthony that you will jump in front of a grenade for. Because he said Anthony's a fighter. You know, he'll get through, you know, this little, let me read it verbatim, because you know me, I don't want to paraphrase, innit? If I'm going to do the gossip, I'm going to do the gossip properly. I don't want to paraphrase. So I want to say it bar for bar. Yeah. Where is it? Oh, I have to go to Fabrizio, because I think it was Fabrizio Romano that tweeted it. And it's like, what is this little relationship him and Anthony got going on? Because you're telling me Anthony is the player that you want to die for. Anthony's the one that you're going to jump in front of a bullet for. That's suspicious. That's weird. That's suspicious. That's weird. I'm trying to find the quote verbatim, because I would like to, bar for bar, I would like to talk about. I want to say it bar for bar, basically. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to paraphrase for you. Like, if I can't find it, I don't think I can find it. Oh no, it's not. It's not the one. It's not the one. But basically, word for word, bar for bar, he said that Anthony's a fighter. He'll get through this little hurdle, you know, of not scoring, not assisting, etc., bad performances. He will get through it. It's very similar to what he said actually about Marcus Rashford. So I can't really say that he only does this for Anthony, because he said something very similar regarding Marcus Rashford. But this whole Sancho situation, I'm at a point now where, as the problems start to build up for Ten Hag, people are going to look at you sideways about the Sancho thing. I mean, it was a misunderstanding. I wouldn't say it was a little misunderstanding between both. The manager said something in the press. Player clapped back, both at media and, you know, rumors. Never really verbatim stated manager for name or anything, but he basically clapped back. Few days later, I think it was about a week later, statement taken down. Reportedly, meetings happening behind closed doors. You know, the FA Player Association was even mediating between the two. And then bam, banished from the first team, banished from the changing room, banished from the lunchroom, banished from everything. Soon he's going to be banished from Carrington. They're going to get Asbo against him and be like, he can't come in a 3-mile radius of Carrington, for something that I just think has just built up for absolutely no need. Absolutely, I think out of all the problems that are now building up, Ten Hag's got injury problems now. People want his head. All of that kind of stuff, you know, results not happening on the pitch. And I'm not saying that Sancho is going to be, you know, the biggest difference maker for us, because I don't even see him coming in and fixing the issues that United have. But I just think it would be one less problem for the manager to deal with. And it's one less reason for people to come at you, because people will come at him, especially the people that want him out. I think people will come at him, especially for this Sancho thing as well. If I was Erik ten Hag, I would drive Sancho out of MUFC myself, but I'd probably try to accidentally hit Anthony on the way out. You see how the difference is like, when it's a player that you brought versus a player that you inherited, because, you know, David De Gea was the same. That was a player that the manager inherited, you know. Who else? Cristiano Ronaldo. That's a player that the manager inherited. Harry Maguire, another player that the manager was trying to push out. Someone else that he inherited. Jadon Sancho. This is the 4th player that the manager has inherited coming into the squad, and there's been some sort of little hiccup or bust up or something. Harry Maguire, the only reason why I'm mentioning him is that it was reported that he never wanted to leave, and it was actually never close to him leaving. But it was very obvious that the manager wanted him out. So for me, it's like, if players you inherit, you don't want to, just don't play them. Just don't play them. That's what a lot of managers do. And that's why I don't get why he doesn't do that. If Erik Ten Hag allows him back without acknowledging that he needs to change and work harder, then he won't have to work any harder. Public admission will be enough assurance that change will happen. One thing I'll say is that as much as I would like for this to be over, I don't see it being over and in the way that I would like it to be, i.e., they kiss and make up. I don't see that happening. The only way that I see things changing is Jadon Sancho leaves in January. That's the only way I see that happening. And you know what? I hope Anthony's on the way out in the summer as well. That's nearly 200 million gone down the drain because Jadon Sancho didn't score again. No, I'm joking. But honestly, that's 200 million, near enough to 200 million on right wingers just gone down the drain. Absolutely pants. Back to square one in terms of needing a right winger. After we just spent 2 summers or 3 summers chasing wingers, and then we're back to square one essentially. Big up to Keegan in the chat, says we can't say that no player is bigger than the club, then go back on it when it gets a bit uncomfortable. Jadon Sancho is a grown man and needs to take his licks, apologize and move on. Do you guys think that banishing, because I think banishing him from first team is enough, but to make an example of him is another thing. I think the canteen thing is a bit dramatic. I don't know. I feel like that's a bit dramatic. Back in school, yeah, and I know I shouldn't really be comparing this to school, but back in school days, when you'd get like a internal exclusion, if you guys ever had that in school, internal exclusion is basically when you're not allowed to go to classes and you have to just sit in a room all day. So you've done something bad. It's not bad enough for you to be excluded or suspended, but it's bad enough for you to not be in classes. So I've been in a few of them. And essentially what it is where you sit in a room for the whole day from 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. And you're not allowed to go and eat in the canteen at lunchtime. You have to, go and get your lunch, come back, sit in your exclusion room, eat your lunch there. I think that's a bit, in football terms, I think that's a bit too much. I feel like banishing him from first team training, etc., is enough. I feel like that's enough. But now you've essentially stopped him from. But I get why he's all right. It kind of makes sense because socializing with players then can have a knock-off effect. He's still going to talk to these players regardless. That's his teammates. They've got each other's numbers. They know, they know where each other live, etc. They will still talk. But in the Carrington setting, I guess maybe minimalizing interactions with first team players is what Erik Ten Hag is trying to do. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is. Big up to Jason, says player power is far too much of a problem at this club. The club needs to send a message to all players saying get in line or get out. Simple. The players have sacked managers because they put down tools. I agree. And you know what? This is one of the many reasons why I'm still very much, I'm not saying trust the process, but I'm more like be patient, because we've seen it happen time and time again. And it's like, if we let it happen now, if we continue to allow it to happen, it will never stop. We will be on our 10th manager in 15 years, basically after 2 seasons, calling for him to be sacked. I'm not going to lie. I will be very honest with you guys. Yeah, I'll be very honest. The Jose Mourinho situation with Paul Pogba, I was very much player FC, but you lot know I'm shameless in it. I'm a Pogba fan. I was very much player FC. Now, maybe because I've moved past the toxicity of being player FC and I'm very much club FC, club above everything. Maybe that's why now I'm very much like, I just want this situation to end, whether it's, in a positive way, i.e., they kiss and make up, or Jadon Sancho leaves. I would rather that than Jadon Sancho stays. If I'm being very honest, I'd much rather that than Jadon Sancho stays and Erik Ten Hag leaves. But I will say is that if Erik Ten Hag did leave, i.e. he got sacked or he walked, it wouldn't be because of the Sancho thing. I think that would just be one little cherry on top of a bunch of cherries, if that even flipping makes sense. Sancho made an example of himself. The dude is being paid ridiculous amounts of money to be a pro player for this club, yet he's acted like a child. So treat him like the child he is. When you compare, the fact that since the Euros, Jadon Sancho has lost, he's lost his first team spot in England. He lost any spot actually in England. And you know what? You look at it now, and even if he gets back to the level of performing, where he deserves an international call up. The likes of Jared Bowen, etc., is still going ahead of him. They are still going ahead of him. Who's he going to displace out of that England squad? Albeit I have no faith in Southgate, anyways. But you know, I remember when Rashford. Do you guys remember when Rashford was dropped from the England team last season? Beginning of last season, he was dropped for, I think it was friendlies leading up to the World Cup, and he slowly started to pick up form at club level. Then he got recalled. That's what players should be doing. But essentially, since the Euros, Jadon Sancho lost his spot after missing the penalty in the finals. Never regained that confidence. Hasn't really been the same since then. And you wonder, when is it gonna end, Robbie? I'm joking, but honestly, when is this all gonna end? Because out of all the issues that I think Erik ten Hag has on his plate right now, this is one problem that he should not have on his plate. This is something that should have just been dealt with easily. I could imagine, you know, I was going to say Arteta, but we saw the way that him and Aubameyang's situation played out. But look how that situation played out. If you guys watched the Prime documentary of Arsenal's All or Nothing, when they showed how the Aubameyang situation happened and what happened behind closed doors, essentially, the manager just said to the football, I think it's their football director, he said to Edu that he didn't want Aubameyang at the club anymore, and he would be it's not part of the philosophy that he's trying to build, the personality, the character, etc. Okay, we're going to get rid of him. Transfer deadline day comes. They're trying to find options to get rid of him. It's either they terminate his contract or they try to sell him. Nobody wants to buy him, so their only option was to terminate his contract. And Edu said, okay, cool, let's do that, because they backed the manager. What happened? He went to Barca, went to Chelsea. Where is he now? He's at Marseille. He's been at 3 clubs in the space of 2 years since. Imagine he had stayed at Arsenal as deadweight on the bench, because him and the manager are in a showdown. At realistic clubs, at serious clubs, that kind of stuff don't run, because, you know, the people in positions to authorize stuff would not let that happen. But it seems like whoever's in a position of power right now at Manchester United that could do that kind of stuff, obviously it's a cash loss for them, but you would rather just take the L than continue to pay someone's wages that is not playing for you, and you're paying them $350 a week, 300, 350, however much it is. You're paying them 300k plus a week to not even come to training. Forget anything else. Forget not even playing. They aren't even coming to training because they've been banished. You're still rewarding them. It's not like you've deducted wages. It's not like you've, suspended their contract pending investigation, whatever, that kind of stuff. It's none of that. It's none of that. And Steffi actually brings up a valid point here. Proper players also want to play. As a professional footballer, obviously, I'm speaking from a place of criticism and luxury because I'm not a professional athlete. But if you commit all your time and day to a sport and you are in your prime years of, achieving whatever it is you want to achieve, because I imagine if I was a man, if I was a man and I was a footballer and, I'm a professional footballer, I would be like, okay, well, my goal is to win the Premier League one day. My goal is to win the Champions League. I want to win the World Cup with my country. I want to captain my country. I want to do this. I want to, break this record. I want to break the assist record in the Premier League, or I want to do X. I want to do Y. I want to do Z. I am looking at Ten Hag sideways for this situation, but I'm also looking at Sancho a bit sideways, because you're in your prime years of football and you can't swallow your pride to say sorry for whatever it is that has happened behind closed doors. I know we're not privy enough to know the details of what's happened, but from the minimal information that we do have, people can obviously form opinions, and I've formed an opinion because of that. The fact that he don't want to play, I'm looking at him as sideways as much as I'm looking at, people senior up at Manchester United. Sancho has nothing to apologize for. Keep on crying. Sancho don't deserve to play for this dead team. Erik ten Hag in, players out. Let the Eredivisie manager stay. United will become the new Crystal Palace. Koala has never been a fan of Erik ten Hag, or because Sancho can't say, okay, I'll try harder, boss. It's crazy, but it seems like it's that, unless, like I said, there's more information that we're not really lucky to know. It's literally 5 words. Literally 5 words. Okay, I'll try harder. But you know what? Like I said, this will build up on Ten Hag's plate of all the stuff that he has to deal with alongside, needing performances on the pitch. There's reports that he's, looking to sit down with players one-to-one to understand what the issues are. I don't think he's happy with all these media leaks, all this information being, fed to the media. I don't know, man. Sometimes sometimes I question the truthfulness of some of this information that's fed to the press. Sometimes I wonder, it sounds like it's made up. It sounds like clockwork, basically. United lose, certain, comments come out, from anonymous sources. Sometimes I look at it, I'm not gonna lie, I look at it sideways. I don't believe it all the time when it comes from certain reporters. However, it's 5 words. It's literally 5 words. Literally 5 words. Dramatic or not, it's the principle of things. Allowing it means there is acceptance of the status quo. It's very similar. It's not similar, but you wonder how different Ten Hag's first season would have been if that Cristiano Ronaldo situation didn't play out the way that it did. Number one, do you think United would have went to pick up form, after? Because that happened, bam, after the Fulham game, when Garnacho scored the late winner. I remember that happened, and then the interview came out, or suggestions of the interview came out from Piers Morgan, and then it was obviously the international break for the World Cup. But then, like about a week later, when the whole interview came out, the Glazers said that they were putting United up for sale. It was like a whole domino effect, basically. So the way that I see it is that had City not allegedly wanted to buy Ronaldo from Juve that summer that United brought him, a lot of stuff would not have happened. The Glazers might have never put the club up for sale, and Jim Ratcliffe may never have come in as a minority investor. B, United might not have had that run that they did after the World Cup, especially because they picked up momentum before the World Cup. So going into the World Cup, after the World Cup, Rashford hit the ground running. United were hit the ground running. December to the first week of March was a great time as a Man United fan last season. We were winning like no man's business. I remember drawing to Leeds and I was livid. Do you guys remember in February we played Leeds back to back? We beat them once and then we drew to one. I was so angry. Obviously, Barcelona, Carabao Cup. February was a good month. Domino effect because of that Ronaldo situation. And it's true what Keegan says here. It is the principle of things, because it's the principle of things, because I do wonder if Ten Hag had not dealt with that the way that he had dealt with it, a lot of things would have been different. Are you going to do a Spider-Man stream? I wanted to, but my capture card has stopped working. So I've ordered a new one. But the thing is, I'm way too far into the game to do a stream. But I'm going to do a video of, my favorite parts, which I'm nearly finished, actually, the game. I want to get it platinum. So I've got about 25%, I think, left of the game. I'm on a bit right now that I'm just stuck on. But I don't want to ruin it. Mina, any manager who would excuse Sancho's actions and let him back in doesn't deserve to manage at an elite level. I think that's definitely debatable. So managers can't say that a player didn't try hard enough. Essentially, that's what it feels like is happening as a result of this Jadon Sancho situation. Your manager cannot question you. Your manager can't really. I wouldn't, because do you guys think he really threw him out to the media, to the Wolves? Because I don't think he did. What he said was very much, like I've said before, I've seen Pep call his players fat. Like, he literally said his player came back from the World Cup fat and overweight, so he can't play. Bear in mind, he was never playing him in the first place anyways. But we've seen that. Essentially, all Erik Ten Hag did was give a reason as to why he was not included in the match day. I guess people wanted an excuse, but you look at this situation now with Varane, and Ten Hag said Varane was ill, but it's reported that Varane was annoyed about being dropped, for no reason, and Johnny Evans being picked ahead of him for the Man City game. Well, which one is it? Would you rather the manager lies and says, "Oh, he's sick, that's why he's not part of the matchday squad," and then you come out and say, "Well, actually, I'm not sick. He just didn't pick me, and he picked someone else ahead of me," or Does the manager come out and say, well, he's not been performing well in training, so he's been left out of the squad? Which one is it? And I feel like that's the crossroad that we're kind of at with this whole Sancho situation. I just want this Sancho situation, guys, to end. That's it. I just want it over and done with. Whether it's contract terminated, whether it's the player leaves, whatever. I just want it. Him apologizing and coming back into the first team. Whatever the situation is, I just want it to be over. That's it. Erik Ten Hag out is a fraudster. He's getting his boys rich. I don't know what that even means. I don't even know what that even means. Honestly, I thought he came to United to get first team and to get into the England team. It's crazy. It's crazy. If you were to think about the Sancho that we got from Borussia Dortmund, and then the Sancho that we've now ended up with, you look at all the other players that have had nurturing moments at Borussia Dortmund and how their time has worked out. It's kind of different. And when I say other players, I'm talking about the youngsters. I'm talking about the Haaland and the Bellingham and etc. I'm talking about those players, if you lot are wondering. I'm not talking about, I don't know, Emre Can and them guys. I'm talking about the younger players. You look at Haaland, maturity. Jude Bellingham. Look at Jude Bellingham, guys. That guy is going to be Real Madrid and England captain. He's the first player in La Liga that's got double-digit goals. He's not even a forward. Scoring in the El Clasico. His celebration. I don't even call it his celebration because to me that's Beckham's celebration. But taking the Zidane number, going to Real Madrid, which is not an easy club to go to. It's not an easy club to go to. Taking that challenge. Literally, that kid's going to be England captain. He's going to lead England to their first major honours in a long time. Mark my words. And Jadon Sancho is nowhere near that. No, and that's not me even criticizing him. It's more so, maybe he doesn't want to be a footballer. Maybe he just does not want to be a footballer. Maybe in life, that I always say this, there's bigger things in life than football. So maybe he just don't want to be a footballer and he just wants to chill. I don't blame him. Erik Ten Hag sent Sancho away for 3 months because he signed Antony and he wanted him to deal with it in the Netherlands. He didn't help him. So Koala thinks that Sancho going away for 3 months was not because of the fact that he needed it or he needed to work on stuff, etc. It's because Sancho wasn't happy that Antony was signed and he wanted him to deal with it in Netherlands, i.e. just go out of sight, out of mind. The Koala's funny with his conspiracy theories. Our players think it's their given right to play for this team when they have absolutely nothing to stand on, when he's hardly tried since he joined us. You know what, guys? This is going to take me into my next point that I would like to raise. And this is actually regarding the manager, not the players. One thing people always talk about how Ten Hag is ruthless, throws his players out to the wolves, etc. I don't think he's ruthless enough in game. And I think only maybe in the Newcastle game I saw it where he hooked Dalot at halftime. But over the last couple months, I don't think Erik Ten Hag has been ruthless enough for me to be like, okay, I respect him. Because Jason raises a point here, which is true. Our players think they have a given right, basically, to play for the team when they have nothing to stand on. And I feel like as a manager, if you continuously, and this is why I kind of understand where Sancho comes from regarding his statement, because if you can see a player repeatedly performing poor in game, forget about training, yeah, because I get it. The manager says that he picks the team based on training and he picks the matchday squad on training. Okay, but if you can watch your player perform badly game after game, and at no point do you think, you know what, I'm going to teach him a lesson now. I'm going to hook him at halftime. Halftime, this guy's getting taken off. And there's so many players I could give examples of. There's a lot of players I could give examples of. And I don't want to pick at any of them in particular. So I'm just going to speak more on an overall kind of basis. But if you can, the last 2 months, yeah, I've seen players put in poor performance after poor performance after poor performance. And the manager has not been reckless or ruthless enough to hook a player at halftime or hook a player after 20, 30 minutes, because he'd rather leave them to grow into the game and then 70, 75th minute, make a change, take them off. But I don't think that's ruthless enough. everyone talks about so much about the ruthlessness of this manager, and this is where I feel like some of his shortcomings occur, because in the last maybe 5 games, I could say the last 6 games, I can think of multiple players who have had poor performances that has not been good enough for them to even see the light of day in the second half, and they come out at second half. I saw Casemiro get hooked recently, and I saw Dallo get hooked recently. And I feel like the manager has waited a bit too late to start doing that, because you should be setting, if you're really about this ruthlessness and this recklessness and this, not tolerating any nonsense and all of that kind of stuff, you would do it imminently. And it's not specific players. Guys, that I'm saying he needs to hook. Because I could say the whole starting 11, but he can't. He can only make 5 changes. But there's some people that have been more of a hindrance than they have contributed to our performances in the last couple of months. And I don't know. I'm not impressed with that. And that don't really sit well with me. Then Erik Ten Hag hooked Cass at halftime, and apparently now the players don't like it. Well, apparently Casemiro's out with a hamstring injury until February, or until January or February. So Ten Hag maybe was telling the truth when he said that, he took Casemiro off because he was injured. Well, also because Casemiro was stinking up the pitch. But he also did say he took him off because he was injured. And now it looks like that's actually the case, which will be interesting, because I'm hearing, reports that a lot of the technical team at Manchester United are not really impressed with Amrabat, and they don't want to keep him. Obviously, he's got a break clause, I think, in January. And Erik Ten Hag is keen to not only keep him for the season, but also keep him on a permanent. And they're not impressed with him. If they're not impressed with him and they don't feel like, he fits the club well, I'm not going to lie, I think I've been a bit underwhelmed with his performances. Some performances I've been impressed with, and it's kind of the standard I've expected from him. But when the team has been underwhelming, he has so as well. And I feel like when he's playing in front of that back line, it's quite difficult to be a shining spark, because, our line is a lot more, different when Harry Maguire is playing and Johnny Evans is playing, in comparison to, when it's Varane or Lisandro Martinez or Lindelof, etc., in that centre-back position. So I'm kind of understanding regarding Amrabat. There are a lot of other midfielders that we could go out and buy. Yusuf Fofana will be available on a free from Monaco. Go get him if you want him. Kamara from Monaco. Go get him. Tchouameni 2.0. Obviously, Tchouameni, that ship has sailed. We ain't getting him. Camavinga as well. But there's a lot of other midfielders that we could go out and get, which is kind of my point. But I don't care what the players think. Players are complaining about socks. They're saying the socks are too tight on their calves. Please. The footballers are divas. That's one thing. That Man United players in particular are divas. That's one thing that I have come to realize, honestly, over the last couple years. These players are real divas. Erik Ten Hag should be more ruthless, but these players are so fragile. We might end up with more Jadon Sancho type issues. Bruno, Rashford, Mason Mount should all be hooked for bad performances, but might be an issue later. I feel sorry for Mason Mount. I know you lot don't want to hear it, but I kind of feel sorry for him, because, actually, do I feel sorry for him, or do I feel like he's become the main scapegoat in the team? Bruno, Rashford, always, the criticism is on them. But I feel like Mason Mount gets a lot of criticism for a player that's only a few months into his career at United. And I know a lot of people were never sold on him, never interested in having him, kind of thing. So they've never really given him a chance. But it's one of them situations, very similar, guys, to when we've got Jadon Sancho, where the club was just going through turmoil. It's quite similar. In Sancho's first season, I think it was, in Sancho's first season is when the whole thing with, Oli got sacked, and then we had temp, all of that kind of stuff. So it's kind of that same turmoil. I won't say exactly the same, because manager ain't been sacked, but it's a rough patch, and that's why Mason Mount and Nana, Højlund, any of the signings in the summer, I told you guys I would wait until the Christmas to kind of give my opinions on them. This is why I want United fans to suffer. Erik Ten Hag in, back the manager, give him time, sell Sancho, keep Anthony, keep Mount, and enjoy. Glory, glory. Koala's actually been one of the first people I've seen saying Erik Ten Hag out. A quality bench is what gives the managers the ability to be productively ruthless. You can't afford to be ruthless if you have a player with a member of the janitorial staff. At this point, Ten Hag should just suit up. At this point, Ten Hag should just suit up and then come on. It's literally as simple as that. These United players are so fragile. Egos are bruised by a bit of constructive criticism. This doesn't happen at the elite clubs. A lot of this could be avoided with I was about to say DOF, yeah. I was about to say defender of football, director of football. Failure on all fronts. Maybe that's why, I don't know. Are we excited for the minority takeover? Because, at least we're getting a director of football. But guys, on that note, a little bit less ranting. And let's talk about the Fulham game tomorrow, because that was actually what I was meant to talk about. Obviously, Man United versus Fulham. Nothing ever good comes from a 12:30 kickoff. Can I just say that? Nothing good comes from 12:30 kickoff, because essentially that's either my entire weekend ruined or my entire weekend made. First and foremost, excuse me. Secondly, at least Man United women are playing Sunday evening as well. And if you want to watch a vibe along, it'll be here on this channel. Come through Sunday evening. But Fulham away, I think we're playing at Craven Cottage. We are playing at Craven Cottage. Obviously, whenever I hear these stats about Fulham, the opponent hasn't beaten Manchester United since X number of years, or the opponent hasn't done this X number of years, you kind of know what's going to happen. And for me, I'm very much like Erik Ten Hag has to turn this around. For me, Erik Ten Hag has to turn this around. The players need to turn it around as well. How does the manager get something, a reaction out of the players? Like, are we going to do, hairdryer gate and just, get the manager to dash a hairdryer at someone's head in the changing room? Like, what does the manager have to do to get a response out of the players? That's what I want to know. How does he do it? Because tomorrow, I think, is a big fixture. If we just forget Champions League, because I know we've got a few Champions League games coming up. But I'm just going to look at our upcoming Premier League games. And we have Fulham away, obviously tomorrow, followed by Luton at home, followed by Everton away. That's a relegation battle fight. And then, this is the difficult part. December onwards is kind of like when things kick off, because obviously we've got Champions League, we've got Bayern Munich in December, etc. We've got Newcastle, and then Chelsea, Bournemouth, Liverpool, West Ham, and then Villa. That is a 5 run of games, which, bar the Bournemouth game, all the games can kind of swing either way. I'm not looking forward to that Anfield trip, 17th December. Funnily enough, fun fact, guys, Man United men and women are both playing Liverpool, I think, on the same day, which is kind of funny. But that run of 5 games where we play Newcastle, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Liverpool, West Ham, bar the Bournemouth game, it could swing either way. And I think if the manager's going to get something out of the next couple months, a reaction has to be had tomorrow. I think it's as simple as that. I'm hoping, it's not about what I want, but in an ideal world, I would want the players to come out, not smash and grab. I don't want smash and grab. I want annihilation. I want football. I want competitiveness. I want, every 50-50 ball, every second chance, going at it, going for it, putting a foot in, putting a head in, putting a body part anywhere you can to get the ball. I want to see that. I want to see the players putting in 110% on the pitch, whether they're starting, whether they're coming on as a sub. I want to see goals. Am I going to see that? No, probably not. Probably not. There's no cohesion in this team. There's no cohesion. Am I saying it right? Cohesion, yeah. There's no cohesion in the team. There's no sort of understanding between the players. It's going to be a difficult watch. I think it's going to be a difficult watch. I think we can get a result. But also, I said that against Newcastle. I said that Newcastle were going to play a weaker team, and for that reason, we should be able to get a result. And I was wrong. But I would like to hear your reaction. I would like to hear your predictions. Obviously, I'd give him what I would like in an ideal world. Whether that's the reality or not, I'm not too sure. But one thing I do know is that if we don't win tomorrow and if we lose, if we suffer a loss, not just any sort of loss, but it's a difficult watch, it's an embarrassing performance, an abysmal performance, a disgraceful performance, more and more people will be calling for the manager's head. And it's crazy because it's not the manager that's on the pitch, but essentially it's the manager that gets all the criticism. You know, the players get criticized too, but most of the criticism will fall onto the manager's lap, a lot of it. And if he can't get a reaction out of his players now, when everyone in the media, fans, everybody has something to say about the players, about the club, about the manager, if he can't get a reaction out of them, questions have to be start to be asked, if that makes any sense. Yeah, questions have to start to be asked. But on that note, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. You lot know what it is. Friday night lights, Friday evening, 7 p.m. all the time here. Fulham versus Manchester United tomorrow. Manchester United women versus Brighton on Sunday. You can catch a vibe along here, guys. We're not far off. Memberships are coming. That's all I have to say. Memberships are coming. Extra content is coming. A lot of fun stuff is coming to the channel. Be sure to follow me on socials below if you guys want live updates of how I'm finding Spider-Man. Like I said, I'm going to do a video once I finish the game. Once I get my capture card as well, I'll be back to doing my FIFA streams, etc., etc. Tomorrow, you guys can find, you don't know what it is, man. After the game, after United views, when I come home from studio, I will try go live where we could talk about the game and obviously women's content coming up. Be sure to hit the like button on the way out, man. You lot know what it is. Big up to everyone in the chat. As always, man, I appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you guys like all of that stuff, And until tomorrow, guys, come on United, man. Predictions. I didn't even give my prediction. I'm going to say 1-0, but that's just me being a disgrace, and that's me being a cheat. That's me being a disgrace and me being a cheat. Make sure you guys turn on your post notifications. So when I go live tomorrow and across the weekend, you guys get that notification, man. Big up to everyone. I hope you all have a wonderful Friday evening. Till tomorrow, guys, man. Come on United. Peace.